Welcome everyone to today's session on relationships and reputation, who is a friend online. This is our fourth installment of Parent Tech Talk Tuesdays. And today we have joining us is Dr. Seiden, Mr. Basile, and I believe Ms. Rashid will be joining as well. And one of those three will be taking care of the chat box if you have any questions. Okay. So today what we have is three different umbrellas, I guess, if you say. The last couple sessions, we've been talking about devices, what our kids are doing, and then now we're going to kind of talk about when you're doing those things, what's happening online. So the first section we'll talk about is online friends, and then the next section will be who are you online, and then the social status and dilemmas they may be put in. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is take a poll, and I'm going to give you a minute to think about this while I set up my poll. Is Susie is in grade 3. Susie's neighbor, Sally, wants Susie to play Roblox with her friend Rebecca. Okay. She met Rebecca on Roblox last month. What should Susie do? The choice will be A, decline the invitation, or B, accept the invitation. Okay, so we're going to start a poll here. Should Susie friend Rebecca? And then it's accept or decline. Okay. Well, go ahead and take a minute. Your choice is A or B. Talking about friends online. Grade 3 student playing Roblox. She knows Sally, but she met Rebecca online. Okay, we got 2 votes for decline so far. 4 votes for decline. And that is the right answer. If I can come back over here. So we do not want to accept the invitation, because by accepting the invitation, now Susie is linked to Rebecca at any time without Sally. So even though Susie and Rebecca have cultivated this relationship, Sally has not, and they met online. Grade 3 can cause potential issues. Okay. Sally does not actually know Rebecca. She's never met her. For all we know, Rebecca could be an adult posing as a child. So those are like the little things that elementary students are kind of faced with. And there's even more like where maybe Rebecca could have been a friend from camp up north. But yet Susie still has never met Rebecca. So how do they become friends? This happens more and more on Instagram, maybe Snapchat, where they're just friending a bunch of people and they don't actually know each other. Okay, so what are 3 things that are a part of in-person communication, but not online? So I'm going to give them about a minute to take a look at these choices, and then we'll talk about each of those things. This is a family activity that you could do at the bottom. You can click here and it gives you the slide deck or the worksheet to kind of help talk about. And maybe this is something you sit down with your children and you do, and just say why there's a difference between online friends and in-person friends. Okay. So the first choice they would want to circle, okay, is body language. The next one is tone of voice, and then eye contact. None of those things you can do without having at least a video communication. Most of the time, these are things that the chat box related Roblox is happening, and the dilemmas that the students are facing online with each other. I think those are the issues, the main issues in a chat box, is that you don't have body language, you don't know the tone of voice, and you don't have the eye contact. Okay. So Bullying can occur. Being called out, sometimes foul language. You don't know the sarcasm that might be happening. I think all of the things that adults know when things can be misconstrued by text messaging. So with that, so we have all the things that we know about making friends online. We also know that students may take steps behind a keyboard or behind a screen to find acceptance. They may not have that social group in school, and they may try to find acceptance online or express themselves without judgment. So I am going to play. I need to present it differently because I forgot this has sound. So I'm going to stop presenting for a second. Window. Oh. And we're going to watch just a really quick video of online.
While you're sorting that out, I'm just going to type in Ms. Jones and say, in talking to a group of older elementary school students just this last couple of weeks, a group actually shared that they had gotten to know one of their 5th grade classmates much better online because that student had a completely different personality, a huge presence online, and was completely quiet and introverted at home. And it wasn't until they were gaming with that person online that they got to know them better. So it's very interesting what you're saying.
I think that's a positive thing, right? Like they can be free, and you'll hear some of these teen voices. There are a couple on the younger age in the video talk about why they choose to be someone different online and the things that they do to kind of express themselves. So here we go. I'm going to mute.
We can't hear it, Ms. Jones.
Promoting, like, I think there's a lot of promoting, like, self-love and positivity, but that sometimes that can turn into more. I think there's a lot of promoting, like, self-love and positivity, but that sometimes that can turn into more of just boasting or showing off.
You go on social media and everyone's posed and thin and pretty, and it's something that definitely gets to you. You're behind your screen, it's not you, so I don't want to post anything that's like too goofy or, you know, sort of vulnerable to who I am.
So when you're online, you have this perfect, unrealistic image of yourself. I think that a lot of the pressure of being a teenager, regardless of who you are, is putting an image out there of yourself that societally is more accepted and more well received.
People started making spam accounts or second accounts or Finstas. They didn't have to think about the quality of the pictures or the lighting or how much editing had been done to that photo.
I wouldn't like say it's a bad thing, but like it's definitely something like that's a part of social media and it's just gonna keep growing.
I think there is a lot of pressure to present a version of yourself that's close to perfect. I would say most of that pressure comes from myself and me wanting to look a certain way and present myself a certain way.
You're able to pick and choose what people see. But if you are constantly displaying yourself as always happy, it can create a lot of anxiety and depression, just a lot of stress coming from, okay, how am I going to display myself online and how am I going to display my online self in the real world?
There are definitely photos where I've like put filters on it or like edited in some way where I look skinnier or prettier or have less freckles or whatever it is. You have all these opportunities to tell people about who you are, and people tend to edit that because they want to be liked. I tend to edit that because I want to be liked.
I do like being on social media because I like to express myself in different ways that people don't see me like in person.
I spend a lot of time being really careful about what I post on my main account, mostly because there's people that I don't know that well. My spam account, however, is just a bunch of really terrible pictures of me with very weird captions.
It's not just spam account and your regular account. Some people have accounts for cats for different colors.
Fences are more fun for me, I think, because you can just post really funny, weird things or repost memes, even share like your opinion on certain current events that maybe you wouldn't feel comfortable sharing with everyone that's following your main account.
A spam page allows you to express your thoughts, and I think it is really important. You get to express yourself. People get to see who you really are.
So there you see some of the pressures that teenagers, and they had a range of ages there. And cats, I think, or dogs were one of the Instagram accounts that I found in 3rd grade. Lots of them, they didn't have their own Instagram account. They had a cat one or a dog one. So whatever that persona they're presenting online is about or through their pet. So I found that kind of interesting and relatable to what these kids are saying, and the outlet that our students need to be able to express themselves without judgment, or on the flip side, the pressure that they're putting on to put those filters or edits on their photo, or filter what they're actually posting that may not be true to themselves. So probably one of the next installments that I'll do with the students is who are they online, and who do they want to be, or how do they want to connect? And we'll look at that more towards after spring break. Okay, any questions there? I'm going to pause there for a second.
Yes, Ms. Jones. Holly is wondering, the spam accounts, they're shared publicly, but is it true that they're not connected to their real world friends?
Yeah, they'll make up a different name even. The Finsta is interesting that it's a fake Instagram. It started to be so your parents don't follow you. You kind of play with your name a little bit, and you might make your name a phonetic spelling so that it's not easily found, but you might have double friends. So your friends know your real one, and then they follow your Finsta. The spam could be anybody out in public, change your name. Everybody's kind of following you, and you don't really care who's following you. You just have this group of people who are more accepting of the things that you are posting. So I haven't heard that as much, like with my volleyball players. I haven't heard as much of a spam account as I heard of Finsta. But I think it's something that is growing, again, a way to express themselves without judgment, or without you knowing even. I think that's also important. So always try to be searching your kids' names, or sometimes they follow their own account, so you can go through the friends. A suggestion too might be to check in with the friends as well. Who are they? Have conversations around them. Make sure that they know who they are, and why. Again, it's important to make sure you know who the friends are that are connected to you. Okay, thank you. So with that social media, there's also deleting and vanishing. Again, with Finstas or normal accounts, they're sending messages to each other, pictures. I think we all might be familiar with the sexting, but this is also where the bullying comes in. They take a picture that somebody doesn't know they are looking or taking of, words, not kind words, thinking that it's going to delete. Snapchat was known for this. That was a key feature. And then they came out with the whole, hey, you could take a screenshot of what's happening, and that gets a notification to the person who sent it to you. They know right away you took a screenshot of something they were hoping was going to vanish. But many apps, again, such as Snapchat, Instagram is just now adding that feature. It used to be for pictures or videos only. They're now adding the text as of recent. That was the most recent update. They all have a vanish mode, and you could turn them on and off. So that might be something you want to talk to your children about, that we don't have vanish mode on, or just realizing when you send something, it's not necessarily going to vanish. Okay. So the assumption is that pictures or text go away after it is read or the time expires, and you could set them for 30 seconds, 1 minute, and whatever the user profile sets those arrangements for. But in reality, screenshots occur. And then so now Snapchat has a feature where if I take a screenshot, it notifies the user or the sender. But But what happens now is that people are with another device taking a picture of the device quickly, and then they have a picture of whatever was sent. So nothing is actually vanishing. And I think that's the most important thing. Even as adults, we find that out through what could happen later in life, right? Like going to college applications, sports, scholarships have been taken away, all from social media, getting jobs, job applications as well. So even at the youngest ages, trying to teach them that just because there's a vanish mode does not mean that something actually vanishes. There's more. You can click down here, Instagram's new vanish mode from Bark that just came out, I think earlier this week. So very recent if you are not receiving those newsletters from Bark. Any questions on that? I think this one's interesting because adults seem to find themselves in those situations, but we don't always have those conversations at a really young age. We start to have those with the teenagers late going to college. You know, if you're put into a situation and then you have to have the discussion in response to it, as opposed to being proactive. Okay. So back to friendships. This is another lesson from Common Sense Media that I thought was interesting, that you could probably memorize as opposed to sitting down with a worksheet and just have dinner conversation and put your child in a situation and express the scenario of what they would do. How would you want your child to answer these scenarios? So I would think about it. I would want them to answer, oh, you know, friending somebody on Instagram because you made a connection after you've already met on video conference might be okay. But in scenario 2, you've never actually met this person. And at the end, in that scenario, one of the friends is asking what street do they live in? And then you pause, and then how that made her uncomfortable. So those are 2 takeaways that you can have. You can click there. It'll take you right to the doc. But I always think about, like, how would my kids answer? And then how do I want them to answer? And then how do they actually answer? And then what kind of parenting conversations do I need to continue having? So recently we've had these just in a park, just trying to think about, if a stranger came up to us in a park and I wasn't there, what would you do? Or if they're playing on the street and I ran in the garage and somebody stopped, what would they do? And they all say run away. But then when you kind of pose that on social media, what do you do when somebody approaches you and asks you questions? It's a little harder to answer because they're not sure. You can hide behind that keyboard. So I would love to hear from parents, maybe next session, if you have these conversations, how did your children respond the way you thought they should? Or were there having to be further conversations around it? So lastly for today, status and belonging in online games. So Mr. She kind of gave me this tip. She has some gamers in grades 4 and 2. And she's like, hey, are you going to talk about skins? This led me in a rabbit hole yesterday, and I thought was so fascinating. So skins are cosmetic add-ons that customize a character. So essentially, you're going to start with a character and you can change their costume. But interesting enough, this is also where games make money. So Fortnite has money. You have to use their currency. You can do them by accessing different levels of the game. It's status symbol. And then some males are playing as female characters. And it's not necessarily because they want to be female, but it's that they want to play with that persona, or that they find it easier to talk to other people when they are the other gender. And then there's a little bit of gambling that can occur at the end. So I shouldn't say at the end, as they grow in age, watch your credit cards. The first video on the top right-hand corner was about a teenager who became kind of gambling over the skins and how that happens. And then the bottom video is more what is a skin and the impact that it's made on the gaming world and even into the children. Both of these I'm not going to play right now because they do contain foul language. The second one more so than the first one. The first one is a newscast. But I'm going to let Ms. Rashid kind of talk a little bit more from a parent and child perspective about how these skins kind of make you belonging, kind of have rank and status.
Sure. So, for instance, right, if there is we'll talk about one of the games I'm quite familiar with, which is Fortnite, for example. So there are seasons in Fortnite, and every season there's a new battle pass that comes out, right? And with that battle pass, you get a set number of V-Bucks, which is the currency for Fortnite, and then you get maybe a skin or two, and then, you know, your friends might know that you have the battle pass. So if you don't buy the battle pass, or you can't afford the battle pass, that puts you, you know, with a group of kids who don't have that stuff. And then it becomes sort of a status symbol. Similarly, with the skins, right? So there are more expensive skins, there are less expensive skins, and then with there's the skin of the store of the game updates daily, weekly. And so you're trying to keep up with buying these skins with the V-Bucks, right? And then, for instance, if you don't have the latest skins, then, you know, you have sort of a different social status. And then your sense of belonging online changes a little bit. Then there is something called back bling, because you only see the backs of the characters when they're playing. And so then, you know, those are the less expensive. So let's say if a skin is 1,500 V-Bucks, then you know the back bling is like 200 V-Bucks. So then you can have, you know, Baby Yoda in your backpack, or stereo in your backpack, or you can have the sled that goes with the Elsa skin. And so there's like it's the fashion and the store and the currency. It's a whole different world that your kids are a part of. On the positive side, right, if you do rewards, extrinsic rewards for behavior, you could reward your kids with, you know, increments of V-Bucks, Robux, and so on. But, you know, the cost does add up. And certainly you should, like Ms. Jones said, look out for your credit card if that's something you give your kids access to.
Thank you, Ms. Rashid. I found this interesting in the sense of, you know, the sense of belonging. So the slide before was putting pictures and filters out there. And then you have this, that's an avatar. It's a cartoon, it's made up, it's a game, and the status and the belonging inside a game. And they don't even know who you are by your face, maybe your username, and knowing where that is. So if you take a look at those videos, it kind of gives you some insight of where it could lead to, not necessarily, again, at the elementary level, but definitely has some addiction that can lead towards the gambling, because that currency allows them to pass levels. Before it used to be a magazine you'd have to go buy to kind of get the in the know, and now it's about the spending of the money or earning the money to advance you a little bit more. So those are just some quick tips. You know, we're usually talking about bullying, online bullying, and how does that occur, but it used to be texting or pictures only and attacking, and now you have so many different avenues that could occur, such as in online games or Finstas, or things that as parents we may not always know about. So those are the last kind of tidbits of relationships and belonging online. And you can also click, again, more about skins. It's just an article to talk about a little bit more about what they are if you are not familiar. Okay. Any questions from our audience, our live audience? Okay. So that's all we have for today. Next week, we're going to talk about, is your child ready for a smartphone? I am going to send a survey to all of those who are registered for this event to ask if your student has or does not have one. And it will be anonymous, but I might have some follow-up questions. I'd like to gather some information from parents, because I have talked to the students. But when did you give your child a smartphone? When are you wanting to? Are you having this conflict? Because I know grade 1 and 3, they happen as different spectrums. And then we'll talk about the statistics of lower school and what that looks like in our landscape. But if you don't have any more questions, that's all we have for today.
There's a comment from Holly that she recommends checking out The Social Dilemma on Netflix, which is part documentary and part drama. Social Dilemma on Netflix.
Yes, I have watched that, and even I am a social media junkie. Like, check that stuff in the middle of the day. Anytime I have some downtime, that is my downtime, is social media. And it's intriguing when they talk about the manipulation of those platforms and where they started. So they started out as being this fun platform, and they have the creators from all the way at the beginning. They're interviewing the creators, and even the creators say it evolved in something that was unintentional, but then also there was intentional manipulation around it, and where that led us to what we have today. So yes, thank you. That's a very good show to watch. Okay. Otherwise, we'll see you next week.